We Rise programming. We're about to get into medicinal creativity, the connection between arts and mental health. As we all know, since the beginning of time, civilizations have relied on art and expression to heal and enrich the lives of their communities. Today, the call for medicinal creativity is more urgent and valuable than ever as we examine antidotes for mental illness stigma and the dissolvement of the prison pipeline system. We urge you to join this powerful conversation of artists from all walks of life that are bravely nurturing the mental health of themselves and communities through the arts. So to get us started tonight, we're going to start with a little bit of art and movement. I am going to bring up to the stage in just a minute Shamel Bell. She is a fierce organizer, an OG, an original member of the Black Lives Matter movement. She's just wrapped up her PhD program like this week. So clap it up for that when she comes, right? She's a fierce woman and a healer. And coming to the stage with her is Deshawn, who is a founding member of the Jerk movement, one of the original Rangers. All your kids and all of you were probably jerking. So you will experience some of that in a minute. Give a round of applause for Shamel and Deshawn.
Hey, everyone. How y'all doing? Okay, everyone stand up. All right. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to start with our breath. Does anyone know what the root of the word conspire is? So Breon Bain, one of the advisors that I have at UCLA that I just turned in my written exams for this week in the production office, using it as a coffee shop, so he taught me that the word conspire means to breathe together. So I would love for you all to begin by conspiring with me, right? So as a dancer, I like to do things in a bit of a choreography. So we're going to breathe in a choreography. So we're going to start with a small breath in for 3, and then we're going to breathe out. We're going to breathe in a little bit more deeply for 3, and then breathe out. And then we're going to take the biggest breath that we can. We're going to hold that for 3, and then we're going to breathe it out. And what we're doing is we're breathing in all the positivity, the love, the joy, the happiness, all of the great things. And then we're breathing out anything that no longer serves us. And while we're doing this, my 7-year-old should be somewhere in here. He's like, am I breathing in all their negative stuff that they breathe out? So we're also going to imagine a bubble of protection around us. And that bubble of protection is going to protect us from the negative energy you might give me. All right. I'm just joking. And everyone, this to the left of me is Deshawn Day of the Rangers. And I did my undergraduate research on jerkin at USC. So I got my honors distinction because of this guy right here. So let's everyone close our eyes. And we're going to breathe in. Breathe it out. Breathe in a little bit more deeper. Breathe it out. Breathe in as deep as you can. Hold it. 1, 2, 3. Okay, now I need 2 volunteers. All right, well, we got 2 right here. They're just right here. All right, so one of the most important things that I do in my PhD work is I use dance as a form of activism. And so for me, dance is healing, and it literally has saved my life. And so one of the things that I like to do is to co-choreograph with people. I like to collaborate with people. I'm trying to move from this me-centered mentality to a we-centered mentality. So I want to ask you your favorite dance move. And then we're all going to be able to do it together. So usually I have a long workshop, and we're not doing that today. But right now, we're going to learn your favorite 2 dance moves, and we're going to put them together in a choreography, and then we're going to do it all together, and that's our dance together for liberation. And that's a metaphor for what we should be doing in this society. In this society, we should, whatever dance level, are y'all professional dancers? Exactly. So you don't need to be a professional dancer, but we all need to bring our tools to the movement, any social justice movement that you are a part of. So you bring that to the movement, and together we collaborate, and then we have this dance piece of liberation that we're going to do together. So What's your name?
Sonia. Sonia.
So, Sonia, what's your dance move?
Okay, so I used to, when I was really young, I used to do Kathak, which is an Indian dance.
Oh, Kathak. I know exactly what Kathak is. Shout out to Shweta. Okay.
And we usually have bells wrapped around our feet, so that would be the beat, and it's ta, 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 ta.
Okay. You need a mic.
Sorry.
Why am I?
Hey guys. So, a little bit of backstory. When I was younger, I used to do this Kathak dance, which is an Indian dance to storytelling, and you basically have 5 or 10 pounds of bells, tiny bells, wrapped around each foot, and you create a beat with your feet, and the beat is ta, tai, tut, tut. So you do ta, tai, tut, tut, ta, tai, tut, tut, ta, tai, tut, tut, ta, tai, tut, tut. Right. And then you have the beat.
So that movement goes step right, left, right, right, left, right, left, left, right, left, right, right, left, right, left, left. Okay, so that's our first move. What's your move?
My move is not as cool as that, but it's one that we all already do. I'm so positive, and it's the shoulder, just the one single shoulder. If you want to get spicy, you can make it too. So it's just in here. So somehow we're going to have to marry that with the feet, I'm pretty sure. But like, yeah, somewhere.
Let me see yours. So we're just doing the shoulder. So how you want to do it? Just, okay. So we're going to go right, left, right, right, left, right, left, left, right, left, right, right, left, right, left, left, and shoulder. All right, and for the interest of time, we usually do more. Day, does you have one in particular you want to do? I will forgo mine.
Honestly, you gotta hit that block boy.
Oh, let's do it. So does everyone know how to do that? Okay, so you're going to take, you want to explain it?
Yes. It's pretty simple. Don't overthink it. Okay, let's get it. You just pretty much high five 3 times. 1, 2, 3. And then with your right leg, you just kick it. 1, 2, 3. So simultaneously. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Let's get it. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
Okay. So we're going to say 5, 6, 7, 8. And then you're going to hit it 3 times. So it's 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. All right, so all together, it would look like we're going to do the Kathak first, right? So we're going to start right, left, right, right, left, right, left, left. Again, right, left, right, right, left, right, left, left, and shoulder. Hey, 5, 6, keep it going, and shoulder. Hey, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And then I want you to flip it to the other side and do 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. So you have a whole choreography there, right? So last time we're doing right, left, right, right, left, right, left, left, right, left, right, right, left, right, left, left, and shoulder. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. All right. So together, we don't have no music, right? We have no music, so we're going to just do it together. There's no music? So no music. We don't need no music. All right. 5, 6, 5, 6, 7, 8. Right, left, right, right, left, right, left, left. Again. Left, right, right, left, right. And shoulder. Hey. And shoulder. Hey. And get ready. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. There you are. All right, and we're going to just take one collective breath together. Breathe it in. Release. Thank you for conspiring with us. All right, you want to get a picture of all us together? Can I get a picture with y'all? Come on.
Okay.
All right, thank y'all.
Thank you. That was so
All right, one more time for Shamel and Deshawn. Shamel will be back in a minute. All right, now I'd like to invite to the stage one of my favorite youth poets. Her name is Benet Benton, and she is a Get Lit player. She spends most of her time writing spoken word and inspiring youth to express themselves and providing a healthy outlet for them. She belongs to an organization called Get Lit Words Ignite, and the entire purpose of the organization is to spread literacy to teens in inner city schools. So please give it up for this young person and keep clapping until she makes it to the mic. Thank you.
Hi. My name is Benet Benton. I work with Get Lit Words Ignite. Get Lit has provided me with so many opportunities to perform all over Los Angeles County. And I may seem really calm and collected on stage, but for over half of my life, I've struggled with major anxiety and depression. And 5 years ago, I would have never thought I'd be doing anything like this. But Get Lit has helped me realize that I have a story to tell that can help other people while helping me, and it's helped me just kind of get free and free all those emotions. And so the poem I'm going to be doing for you guys today is one of the first slam poems I wrote, and it's called The First Goodbye to My Anxiety. You have lived in me for over half my life, but the first time I learned your name was only 4 years ago. You had your hands around my throat in the middle of an interview. I missed my bus because you wouldn't let go enough for me to utter the words, I have to leave. You never let me leave that room. But I want you to know that I have left on my own, and this is the letter I leave to you. I found out where that bus was going. Directly up into that temporary world of accumulating water in the sky, collecting, building an all-new terrain, but never to be treaded on by pioneers, soon to be blown away by the winds going 500 miles per hour up there. That is my safe place for when my body has caved in on itself, my head slowly getting hotter, my eyes slowly getting blinder, sound ceasing to exist, my body skipping fight and flight, going straight to fright, my eyes closed. You, my jittery demon, pull me down, but my safe place pushes back. Behind my eyes is everything to be afraid of. Everything I thought of right now in this second to ruin my life, but my safe place pulls me up above the ground. The sun bright and beating down over that bleach white surface of my safe place. No Care Bears like my dreams, but something better. Something I would not have known being so small on the ground, watching my safe place from below where you step on my shoelaces so I cannot fly away. I was born up there. Miles into the sky, the moon was my nightlight and the stars my cousins, and every time I look up, they speak to me. Every time I look up, you, my jittery demon, cannot hold me back anymore, because every time I look up, I see home. And guess what? I bought my bus ticket. Guess what? I'm taking my shoes off. Guess what? I'm not that 7-year-old girl anymore, because guess what? I know your name, and I'm not afraid of you. I am not afraid of you. I am not afraid of you, not anymore. And guess what? My bus is here. I'm going home.
One more time for Benet. All right, now it's time to get into it. I'm going to bring up our incredible moderator, Miss Gina Belafonte. She is a fierce organizer of many projects, including We Rise. She is a mother of magic, a healer. You guys are going to see a lot. She's also the director of Sankofa.org. She works with artists and thought leaders in service of grassroots movements and organizations to shine a light where there's darkness. I mean, she's literally magic, and she is moderating this special panel tonight. Please give it up and keep clapping until she makes it to the stage. Miss Gina Belafonte.
Let's hear it for Jasmine, please. Amazing. And the entire We Rise team, the gallery, the curators of the art, the installation, Christina Pacheco, all the programming that's going on. Let's give them a round of applause. And also another round of applause for the beautiful poet, Benet Benton. Amazing. So we have an exciting panel tonight. And I look forward to this conversation and this discussion. And I'm going to call you up one at a time as I read your bio and introduction. And please join me up here. So first we have Kiran. Please join me. Who performs as Madam Gandhi. She is an electronic music artist and activist based in Los Angeles. She studied mathematics at Georgetown University and worked as the first ever data analyst at Interscope Records before going on to receive her MBA from Harvard. Madam Gandhi now produces music that elevates and celebrates the female voice, and in 2016 she released her first EP, Voices, and in 2017 she toured as the opening act for Ani DeFranco. Madam Gandhi is currently working on her debut full-length album, Madam Gandhi. Next, we have Dr. Amir Whitaker. He's the founder of Project Knucklehead, a nonprofit that works with juvenile justice and after-school programs in Florida and California. Amir was introduced to the criminal justice system while visiting both his parents in prison during his childhood. By the age of 15, Amir was arrested and entered the juvenile justice system himself. Now, as a civil rights lawyer, Amir has negotiated settlements and policy changes impacting thousands of youth across multiple states. Dr. Whitaker has written for newspapers and multiple publications and has taught across different educational settings for over 10 years, including a juvenile residential facility. He received his bachelor's degree from Rutgers University, doctorate in educational psychology from the University of Southern California, and Juris Doctorate from the University of Miami, and recently published his own memoir. Again, Dr. Whitaker. Next, we have, once again, Shamel Bell, who will come and join me. She's a mother, community organizer, dancer, choreographer, and doctoral student in culture and performance at UCLA's World Arts and Cultures Dance Department. Shamel received her MA in Ethnic Studies from UC San Diego and a BA with honors in American Studies and Ethnicity, specializing in African American Studies at USC. Her work on what she calls street dance activism situates street dance as grassroots political action from her perspectives as a scholar, dancer, and choreographer. Shamel is an original member of the Black Lives Matter movement, beginning as a core organizer with Justice for Trayvon Martin, Los Angeles. Shamel describes herself as an arts and culture liaison between several social justice organizations. Shamel Bell. And next we have painter and muralist Fabian Deborah. So Fabian was born in El Paso, Texas, where he has produced his love for art since an early childhood age. He interned and was mentored by Wayne Healy, a prominent Los Angeles-based Chicano-Irish muralist and artist. Fabian has had large-scale murals displayed at the U.S. Capitol, in Santa Maria County, as well as the Los Angeles International Airport. He created a mural with those incarcerated at East Lake Central Juvenile Hall in Lincoln Heights, Los Angeles, titled Pivot Point of Life. He has been commissioned many times to create murals, and while in Italy, and inspired by Luis J. Rodriguez's novel, Always Running, Fabian reflected on his own experiences with gang life and painted a mural titled Lost Angels on an exterior street wall in the center of Rome. Fabian. And last but certainly not least, we have Jackson Brown. He has written and performed some of the most literate and moving songs in popular music and has defined a genre of songwriting charged with honesty, emotion, and personal politics. He was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2004 and the Songwriters Hall of Fame in 2007. Except for a brief period in New York City in the late 1960s, Jackson has always lived in Southern California. His debut album came out with on David Geffen's Asylum Records in 1972. Since then, he has released 14 studio albums and 4 collections of live performances. His most recent studio album, Standing in the Breach, is a collection of 10 songs that turns deeply personal and political, and exploring love, hope, and defiance in the face of the advancing uncertainties of modern life. He's known for his advocacy on behalf of the environment, human rights, and arts education. In addition to receiving multiple awards, Jackson is also the co-founder of the groups Musicians United for Safe Energy, Muse, and nukefree.org, and a member of the ocean advocacy group Ocean Elders. Welcome, Jackson Browne. I read out all of these bios so that you can see what an extremely diverse group we have here tonight, talking about art and mental health and well-being. And I'm hoping that tonight will be a nice conversation amongst us, so feel free at any time to chime in. Don't wait for me to call upon you. And we'll open it up for Q&A later and be able to get into more of a dialogue with each other. So, hi. Hello.
Tina.
So, you know, since the beginning of time, civilizations have relied on art and expressions of art and culture to heal and enrich the lives of their communities. And it feels like today, the call for medicinal creativity is more urgent and valuable than ever. And so tonight we're going to examine some of the antidotes for mental illness, the stigmas around it, the ways in which we have found healing ourselves, and not just through the work that these amazing people do, but also how they have found it personally or have witnessed healing through the arts personally. So let's just dive right in, and anyone feel free to answer any of these questions, multiple answers, I'm sure. So let's see. In what ways do you nurture your own mental health through art? How have you found artistic tools to nurture your own mental well-being?
I think for me it's twofold. I can start it. Hello. Thank you for coming on Sunday evening. That's cool. I appreciate you so much. That's awesome. I think 2 ways for me. The first is I think I think young women are always taught that our value comes from our looks. That's what's overly emphasized by the media and by makeup companies and whatever, that our value comes from our looks, and for men, their value gets to come from their skill sets. And so I think for me, one thing that's been really important in my journey is my confidence always comes when I invest in my own skill set, and it's very empowering for me. And so whether that means playing the drums or producing or singing, every time that I've taken time to just practice and be better at what I do, it helps my own mental wellness because I feel confident instead of depressed, and I don't feel like I'm competing against somebody else or trying to be a second-rate version of somebody else. I just want to be a first-rate version of myself. And actually, when she gave the poetry a moment ago, there was something she said. She was like, Mia 5 years ago would never even think that I'd be on a stage. And I have a lot of that. I related to that because I said, Mia 5 years ago would never be producing. Mia 5 years ago would have never gone to Harvard. Mia 5 years ago would have never drummed for MIA. You know, I used to play the drums for... So things like that, when we invest in our skill sets, that's number one. And then I think, you know, in my work, I always say, own your voice, you know, own your voice. When I speak my truth, others relate to it. And so in my music, I really try to keep it 100. Like, I have a song that will come out this summer, and it's like, all my bad habits have got to go. All my bad habits have got to go. You know, I'm out here just trying to be the best. I'm trying to get rid of all the bad habits, you know. So hopefully in me doing that for myself, it's a gift for somebody else to do that for themselves.
Nice. Does anyone else want to talk about how they use art at all for themselves as a tool?
I think...
I'll go after you.
All right, sorry. I think for me, it's like... I think for me, it has been, it is a must that I continue to have therapeutic encounters with the community that I once terrified. And so being that I was gang impacted and terrified my community at one time, I think that for me, the way I feel and live good with myself is the fact that I'm creating these therapeutic encounters with those who are still being neglected, overseen, and undervalued within my community. That in itself boosts up my esteem in such a way that it becomes a responsibility after a while. And I find myself to be miserable when I'm not contributing to change by utilizing the arts. And I think for me, that's where I find myself to be at my best and at peace, by creating art and those therapeutic encounters impacting those in my community.
That's good. Yeah, no, so very, 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 very similar to you. Well, first, I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder at a very young age. And for me, it's been very difficult to be someone that's extremely active. You know, I'm a PhD student. I'm a single mom. You know, I'm an organizer. And when you take those pills, someone that's hypersensitive, I am asleep. So if I take my bipolar medicine, I'm like, you know, so for me, it took other ways of nurturing myself. And so that's a daily practice. So I get up, I meditate. I don't get out of the bed without meditating. I get up and I clear my energy, because I know a lot of times I'm a deep, deep, deep empath. So I pick up all the energy from people around me. So I purposefully, you know, clear that out, jump in the shower. After I jump in the shower, then I, you know, fill myself up with positive energy, and all of these little small things like taking a shower, getting sage and crystals, and all of these things that I do, it helps me to regulate and to be able to like have this conversation. Look, I got a notepad because I have a conversation in my head that's going around like a million times. And so for me, it's just doing these practices, and art is what actually keeps me focused. So you all saw me dance a little bit earlier. So for me, it's being creative, but not just by myself. Like I said, I'm being creative with others, and that collaboration in that taking my friends to spas. I know like 3 of my friends that are here, we go to spas and we do self-care together in creative ways.
Well, I began writing songs when I was about 14 or 15, and I guess what it amounted to was me trying to describe the world as I saw it, and in terms that I would recognize. I mean, I always liked music. I had a lot of music in my life, in my family, and my friends and I all liked music and would sing and stuff, you know. But at a certain point, it became more of a solitary practice. It was the kind of thing I did by myself, and when everybody else was asleep, and when the house was still. And I mean, it doesn't surprise me that some of the songs I wrote when I was very young are still songs that they still have a place in my repertoire when I play live, and people still call for those songs because they describe life as it was then. I mean, I can sing a song about being very alone or very, you know, then, though I'm never alone now. But I can access that moment that the song was written, and in a way touch on it. In the same way, I mean, on one of my first on my first record, there was a song that I wrote about a friend of mine who committed suicide. And I really didn't know anybody else who had written songs about suicide. I mean, you know, but it was a story that I knew, and I thought, and I just told it in very straight terms about just having heard, you know, having traveled with him and then heard about it later and the questions that arose in me. And I didn't think of it at the time. I didn't think about it at the time, but it was me just simply trying to process that loss and the kind of doubt and questions that arose in me because of it. So, I mean, I began then. I think at the time I thought it was one of the better songs I'd written, and it actually made me more serious. I realized it had a tremendous value to me to heal myself and to heal the world. So, as I continue to write songs, you know, that's what I think it's about. I think it's about healing, and for that reason, I generally don't think that I don't repeat myself. I don't try to write the same song over and over again. And there's a reward for having written this song, you know, not only for myself, but also to people who give me back that recognition for the song, you know, that the song itself was the reward. Doesn't matter how many copies it sold or whether or not it was heard by a lot of people. Matter of fact, well, I shouldn't go on much longer than that. These songs have a life of their own, and it, as my audience, there might be a record that went by that nobody bought, you know, and maybe it wasn't a very good record of the song, but I mean, as I sing that song years later, people do recognize that song, and it finds a place in their, you know, but it's very, I'm so fortunate to have received a lot of success when I was young, and I'm fortunate to have come from a generation that came of age during, you know, the civil rights movement, and began to recognize human rights and the value of one's individual story. I mean, before my generation, people wrote songs that were written by a team of songwriters in somewhere, and they were great songs, you know, I mean, great songs, but around the late 60s, with Bob Dylan, with the Beatles, with all the bands that I loved, you know, they all wrote their own songs, and so you didn't really want to sing a song that somebody else wrote for you to sing. You had to find your own voice. So it begins with that, finding your own voice, finding your own way. It's like Benet saying, you know, like she's finding her own voice and her own trajectory. And I think it was what Fabian was saying too, you know, finding who you are and being able to present that to the world.
Yes, thank you. Awesome.
Yeah, and I have a few.
Yeah, I was going to say, Amir, like you don't self-identify as an artist per se, but you are very artistic in the work that you do.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, please.
Sure. So, I mean, I rely on several art forms for my wellness and well-being and mental health, whether that's, you know, being in one of those 6-hour meetings and carving out a part of my notebook that's going to save me literally for that meeting. Whether it's, I've always had anxiety issues. I'm realizing now I have an internal, what I'm calling hustler's anxiety. I'm just always going to have ambition. And I'm sure many people in this room, you know, like that. We're in the city of hustlers, LA. So, you know, you have your job that's maybe 50, 60 hours a week, volunteer director for a nonprofit, board director for another nonprofit, and just other things that lead to about an 80-hour week. And you naturally have a to-do list that has a lot of tasks that you don't finish. Most of the time the sun starts setting. So in my hustler's anxiety, I notice every night when it starts getting dark, I start getting anxious. You know, I can feel it in my body. And I have to put on jazz music, you know, because different things are going on in my mind, and one of the only things that can really calm me down and relax me is music. And I'm grateful. I think my father gave me many things, but I think the greatest gift he ever gave me was hip-hop, because that's an art form, right? Or it's a movement that encompasses many art forms, and he gave that to me through two turntables and a mic. He was a DJ, one of the, you know, old school DJs over 40 years ago now. But also dancing and art, you know, graffiti, lettering, right? Literally the letters on this wall in this entire, you know, gallery, exhibit, and pop-up festival wouldn't be the same without this movement. And hip-hop really was a community arts revolution movement. If you think about, like, the space it provided and just the audacity for it to put art in certain spaces, and how you can have a breakdance circle on streets and how you can put art on the wall and stuff like that. So I still rely on stuff like this. We Rise. So great work to all the artists and all the people behind this, allowing us to have this in our city, because LA is a very interesting city. I'm sure when I came back to LA 2 weeks ago from Alabama, surprisingly, right? Even though it's the second poorest state in the country, when you come back here, you see LA, you see more people in the streets, right? With the incarceration capital and different things. So I think just to survive in this city, you have to find some way for art to heal you, and I think that's actually what brings a lot of us to this city, right? And unites us. So the arts create community and heals us all.
Absolutely, yeah. Can we see up here a show of hands of people who turn to some artistic, creative tool to help themselves heal or get through stuff? Yeah. See that? I feel you all, for sure. I think also from some of the comments, we can also see that some of the things that we identify as the arts are not always the things that we use to heal ourselves are not always identified as artistic or arts, like meditation or crystals, or, those are always not necessarily looked at as creative or arts, but I feel like they're a creative art in using that as a tool. So, all right, so let's see, because this panel is so diverse, I'm looking forward to the answers to this one. So, what has been the most impactful evidence? What has been the most impactful evidence of your own work as a healing agent? And I know, Jackson, you talked about that specific song that you wrote. What has been the most powerful example of the arts as a tool for mental health in your life or in someone else's life that you saw? Whether it was a drumming circle that you saw, something witnessed, and if you can share maybe a story about that piece that actually you either created or that you saw help somebody else. Does it make sense what I'm asking for? Like, for instance, I sort of very publicly and outwardly can look at something like "We Are the World" as a song that was used as a tool to not only help people who were suffering, but also those who didn't know what to do about it. They found great relief in using their artistry as a tool to help someone else. So what has been the most impactful evidence either of your own work as a healing agent or someone else's work that you saw work?
I've seen some impact, and it's going back to what you said, what you think or what we think art to be. So being in a World Arts Culture department, that's why I think of art in a different way. So I'm pretty sure most of us are artists, right? And it's a way of like using our daily lived experience as a way of imitating nature and things to heal us and things like that. So something very interesting that happened is this is a black tourmaline. I think I've told you this story. This is a black tourmaline bracelet. So when I do the street dance activism workshop, my son and I are very intentional about like clearing, like energy is real. So clearing energy and clearing spaces and stuff like that. And I didn't really know much about crystals. My son actually got me into it. And someone told me wear black tourmaline as a shield. And I was like, yeah, okay, I'm just going to do it. All right. So I did it and it popped the first time. And I was like, okay, I don't know anything about crystals. I thought it was a fluke. I did it again and it popped. And I said, okay, that was just, I need to get better, like bracelets. Something's wrong with these bracelets. So then I get a very thick necklace, and I go to Duke University, and I go to this woman, and I say, because I'm like, you have amazing energy. I would love for you to come to. She's like, I don't feel like dancing. I'm like, I would just love for you to come and sit in, because I noticed that the beginning of the street dance activism workshop, I asked everyone how they're feeling in one word, and usually they're like, oh, I'm exhausted, I'm tired, I'm this, I'm that, and I check their energy levels and check the healing levels at the end. When we check out, they're like, I'm energetic, I'm great, all of these things. So that's real tangible ways to check how dance is healing. So I get out of this street dance activism workshop, and I'm walking out, and the black tourmaline necklace is falling down my shirt. And I said, how is this a thing? So then I talked to someone that works with energy, and she says, you're being protected. You are absorbing all of the negative energy that's in the room and around you. And that is why when you walk into a room, just outside there, the production office was like, when you were gone for 2 days, it felt different. Oh my gosh, when I see you now, I just feel different, or, so it's very tangible that, you, and like you said, someone said, once you heal yourself, I think I had wrote that down, like heal yourself, then you'll be able to heal others. And I think that's what art and street dance activism has actually done, like in tangible ways. I've seen, crystals break, I've seen people literally have things transformed, things lifted off their backs. I've seen healing frequencies happened after, and people come up to me and they're saying like, I never thought that it was a thing. Like I was coming in here and I really didn't even want to dance, but it's because I'm very intentional about the healing work that I'm doing. Healing doesn't always seem, I know if y'all see a cupping mark on me, if you see something red, it's just I get acupuncture, cupping and all that other stuff, but that's not the only type of healing. You can literally, as being a person of light and love, you can manipulate the energy in places, and that's healing work. You are a healer. Gina's my healer. I love Gina.
I think, I think for me, I think my own transformation is what has allowed me to make a big difference in such a way. See, growing up in the 80s and the decade of violence and the crack cocaine epidemic, grew up in the projects. I come from a household where there was a lot of domestic violence, abuse, and drug use. And I remember as a young age, impacted with trauma, trying to protect a mother in despair who is single, father going in and out of prison. I had and therapy was not even on the radar. And as a matter of fact, you don't speak to a therapist or social workers because they'll take you away from us, so you better, that kind of ideal existed in my household, so I had to resort to something. And I remember when the domestic violence would take place, mothers screaming, fearing for life, I would go under a coffee table, and I created that to be my safe space. It had a beautiful long drape. I would pick up my notebook and create my own worlds to escape my reality. And that's when I found art to be meaningful. It gave me hope. It gave me self-worth. Most importantly, it gave me meaning. Although I could not embrace that due to the fact of trauma, so I too got sucked by the vacuum and fell into the slings of gang culture and drug addiction myself. But I always knew that I had the medicine and the antidote. I just had to find a way to really embrace it and put it into practice. And it took many mentors and others to finally get to a point where that can be revealed to me. But it took a suicide attempt when I can really actually recognize that I had purpose in life. And the reason why I say my transformation is because now we live in times where formerly incarcerated, system-impacted individuals like myself have gained access and been given the opportunity to be part of that change. For many years, we were not included. We were the animals to be. Lock them up and throw away the key. But now you need me as much as I need you. I come to a place where hopefully we can get to And I always say this, it's like if we come with great intentions, sometimes we want to prescribe what we think works for you, when it's not. That should not be the approach. I feel that for me, it's about asking them what they think might work for them, and for me personally, that's what I feel it is. My own personal transformation, the fact that I get to model and demonstrate to those who have been impacted. That there is a possible way to find a way through the arts in all the different disciplines. And I want to say this, I hope we get to a place where once and for all, you validate and value personal life experience to coexist with professionalism, so together we can make this world a safer place. Because if we're not there quite yet, all we're going to do and continue to do is re-traumatize. Yeah. So I fight that. That's my fight, and it's a challenge that I put out to the world because we come with great intentions, but sometimes we overlook the in-betweens and, criteria, requirements, continue to exclude. When I just sold something to someone, and then the end result's not quite there yet. So I challenge everyone to help us with that.
I can add something to that. So I think observing, me personally, I'm a musician as well, and I purchased my first guitar with crack cocaine. And now today, my nonprofit Project Knucklehead, we provide youth with instruments so they don't have to do anything similar, right? And we started in Miami where I was in a juvenile courthouse in our program for youth in the juvenile justice system. And this was like the reentry part, and we realized, wow, if you really want the youth to develop a certain level of musicianship, you have to actually give them instruments. You can't just let them practice while they're here. You have to give them that trust, and give them a violin, give them a trumpet. And we gave this young lady a trumpet, and she said when she took it home, her mother started crying because she felt like she had never seen the system or anyone give her daughter something of value or do something that make her feel like they valued her daughter. So seeing just the power of how it can show we appreciate you and giving that. And she shared stories about how her, sitting at home practicing that violin, similar to me at home practicing my guitar, kept her out of trouble, literally kept her from getting rearrested one time, or, different trouble went down. So just having that instance right there. But I do want to lift up one other thing. I think it's one of the most important demonstrations of that, the healing power of art in American history in Congo Square in New Orleans. Sarah, some clapping there. Those who don't know, the drum itself was outlawed in a lot of states, the Carolinas, Georgia, during slavery because, our ancestors actually used the drum to communicate over long distances, and they figured that out and said, oh, well, they're actually plotting revolt and different things. So there wasn't a lot of space where, people of African descent could use drums. But in New Orleans, this one area on Sundays, ironically today being a Sunday, this one square where they allowed for the space and the healing and the music and the dancing. Today it's Louis Armstrong Park, right? But it's looked at as helping birth jazz and just one of the different movements because it's just this freedom space, and that's what jazz is. That's what hip-hop is the grandson of jazz. It's really about freedom and improvisation. So it's just spaces, community spaces like that really show the transformative power of music.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. All right, Dr. Whitaker.
I would just add one word to what we just said, which is that it's an expression of community. It's all concerts, you get to that place where people recognize themselves in the music and recognize one another for being there. It's the same really with a mural. If you grow up with the images that you grow up with, and then that's emblazoned in your subconscious as part of you as you're growing up, and those images travel not only forward in time, but also wherever that person goes in his life. And it's the same with music. I mean, the art that you appreciate together, the art you grew up with, and the expression of community.
Absolutely. And in thinking about the arts and culture as a tool, not only for using as a mental health tool, but also as an organizing tool, so much art is birthed out of pain and struggle and fear, and it's interesting how different kinds of art are birthed out of those spaces. And it's how people respond to the devastation that's happening around them. I feel like we're bombarded right now with so much social media and news alerts, and we're in a constant up and down of feelings around what's happening in the world. And there's times when we can either feel extremely creative because of all that's going on, or we can feel like we're having a mental block, like we're almost crippled or impotent. So I wonder what tools you guys use in order to either enhance your creativity or use to, when you have a block and you just do not know where to go or what to do. So what tools do you guys use?
Miss Gina Belafonte.
Yes.
I come and sit on your lap.
Oh.
like you literally. No, absolutely. It's using other people as generators. So do you know people in your life that you get around and you just feel infinitely more stronger and better? You feel like you can finish their sentences. You get on this, like we do this thing where we literally say the same thing. And I have some of my friends that are here right now who we just kind of do life with each other. So when these creative blocks happen, so I have this autoimmune disorder where I don't have enough cortisol in my body. So something like right now, talking to you, this is a part of my purpose, but I always have to do it afraid, right? And so I can literally not breathe right now, but if I get, I'm around Gina and it calms me down. She's a generator. She lifts me up. She's uplifting. She has positive energy. And so some of the things I do is I ask my friends who I know love me and support me, and I get around them. And then when I couldn't do any work because I just sat there in panic like I was dying just because I was supposed to be typing a paper, I come in, I sit next to Gina, she, does whatever she does, or, that type of exchange. Then all of a sudden I'm like, that, you know, that's me typing on something. Like, you're like, what's, yeah, all of a sudden I'm typing, you know, 1 million words a minute. And that's because we are so connected to each other. And I think that's something that we've missed out. And once we, you know, a lot of us brilliantly said that, you know, we need to heal ourselves in order to help others. But so it's really, really important for me to keep my energy right. It's really important. Like, I can walk in and I'm like, Gina, what's wrong? Like, if your energy is just a little bit off, like, others can tell. But that's why we need to, like, kind of realize that we have this oneness that's going around. And if we have that oneness and we come next to a person when we're having the blocks, someone might be able to unlock it. And so I think that that's what I use to get through creative block. And I just want to thank Re-Rise for, you know, getting me through some of my blocks very, you know, recently. So yeah, I had to jump in there. I'm like, Gina, you're the answer to the question.
Sweet, thank you, Shamel. Wow.
I use different rhythm activities. So something to highlight the cruelty to the last thing I said with drums being outlawed. A study was published in 2016 that found even a short drumming session could actually alter your brain waves from beta waves to alpha waves, where you're more relaxed in the state that you're actually going into meditation. If you think about meditation, it's really a rhythm activity with breathing, you know, and one of the things that meditation is, right? So I do all sorts of rhythm activities, whether it be chants or sometimes it's like a rhythm freestyle. I do one that's called Infinite. It's kind of like Beyonce's Flawless, but I don't.
Do you want to take us through it? Share? Come on.
Let's do it.
Let's
not necessarily.
all right. No?
Well, but, you know, flawless, I don't think I'm flawless because I don't think anyone's perfect, but I do think my potential is infinite because I don't know what I'm capable of yet. I haven't seen it, right? So combining that research, evidence-based thing, that rhythm actually can alter your brain waves, and, you know, chanting. I think that's why a lot of even organizing, right? We go into chants and we do different things. But I'll just do something and I'll say infinite, like Beyonce says, flawless. So I wake up, infinite. We rise, infinite. On the couch, infinite. Kieran, infinite. Gina, infinite. Shamel, infinite. Fabian, infinite. And Jackson Brown is infinite. Yeah. So just, I call it the infinity chant. I do my infinity chants. Nice, yeah.
Now, Kieran, you were talking earlier, you were saying how, you know, you feel it's important to feel clean and to you use the art of exercise, you use the art of meditation. Do you want to share a little bit about your tools?
Yes, I want to share. I love to run. I ran this morning. I played the drums today and yesterday, so that's good. That's why I feel good. I play the drums all the time. I think for me, I grew up with very traditional Indian parents who were trying to get us to, like, my brother and sister and I, to have the best grades and, like, to go to the best schools and, I don't know, be part of the hamster wheel capitalist patriarchy. Like, Harvard Business School is the breeding ground of the capitalist patriarchy, you know, but
yes,
I went there.
That bad whiskey.
What?
That bad whiskey.
Yeah, sure. So I think I grew up with, like, this thing that my parents wanted the best for us because they were immigrant parents and they were so lovely and wonderful, and they did encourage my drumming and my music. But in the past 4 or 5 years of my life, I've been really optimizing for my own joyfulness. Like, what is joyfulness, you know? And yes, it's true that I make a lot of great music out of my own pain, but I also make a lot of excellent music out of my own joy. Like, I own my, like, even yesterday at the DJ set, I was in the desert DJing at the Ace Hotel and, like, drumming, and I was having a blast. Like, I was like, this song is poppin'. This remix of Cardi B is amazing. My drumming on top of it is lit. I have my friend who's a flute player playing on top of the track with me. Like, this is amazing. And the entire pool, which is like, it's like a very normal vibe, but it, like, totally lit up. Like, everyone's just like, what is happening with the music? And they turned over and just saw me and, like, 3 other women just, like, came through dripping, drip, like, and I'm, like, playing drums and, like, having a great time. So I share that because for me, it was a journey for me to work with my parents to be like, yes, I went to business school, I did that. And as soon as I graduated, I realized if I keep doing what somebody else wants for me, I'll be on somebody else's hamster wheel forever, you know? I'm not interested in that.
So I said, I'm interested in being employed for what I would be doing anyway, which is playing the drums, talking about feminism, giving joy to other people, hanging out with high schoolers and talking about, you know, their own like self-esteem and self-worth, playing music, producing. And in the past 4 years, it's been a really personal, powerful transformation to start getting paid for what I want to be doing.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? So that's, for me, I always optimize for my own joyfulness, because then when I am depressed, I remember what it's like to feel good, and I make my journey go back to that state. But if you don't even have a memory of what it's like to feel joyful, you kind of assume a lower vibrational state of yourself.
Yep.
And I want to assume an infinite vibrational state of myself.
Infinite.
And feel joyful. So I've been really on this joyful tip. And when I say clean, like eating clean, I was like, this is a stereotype. It's like, I don't think it's cool anymore for musicians to be hella hungover and chain smoking. You know, I want to be the musician who like pulls up. I'm like, early sound check. Let's have some juice. Let's do some stretching. No drinking. Like, I just want to be so clean. Like, I just think that's way more badass to like DJ a set and then run 11 miles in the desert. Like, you know, like that's like, anyway, that's like the aspirational version of myself. So I'm on this like joyfulness tip. Namaste. My last name is Gandhi, so you know.
Yes.
That's my answer.
All right. Well, I'm gonna ask one more question, and then we'll open it up for questions. So I just wanted to talk about. This is a little bit more of a serious note. You know, in most cities across the country, we see not only arts funding going away, but the arts is usually the first thing to come out of the schools, the public school system. And I'm wondering if we could speak a little bit to, you know, the loss of the arts in schools and communities, and what you all think about what the long-term consequences of that are. And especially as it relates to our young people and critical, because I feel like the arts is a critical healing tool, and not only
They don't want us
tool,
to know that. They don't want us to know that. This whole system.
That's
I just want to. I just want to say that
literally
really,
just wrote that down.
The whole system is designed for us to be depressed. Instagram and all this shit just makes us feel depressed. It's like a minute-to-minute high and low of like, oh my God, 1 million likes. Oh my God, no one likes me. Oh my God, 1 million likes. Oh my God, somebody else's life is way better. It's so
That's right.
bizarre. And then they sell us the products
That's
to
right.
get out of our depression. It's so fucked. It's so fucked. Yes. And
It's
it makes me so
intentional.
mad. So that's why sometimes eating clean, it doesn't feel like a diet. It feels like my own personal self-radicalism. I'm like, you can keep your beer. Like, I'm cool off that. Like, my show will be clean. Like, do you know what I mean? That's my own radicalism. But you are right that like arts, yoga, meditation, they know that these have pure energies to them. They know they can't taint it. So that's why they don't give it to us. It's so evil.
it is.
Right, and actually, you know, California law requires schools to have the 4 core arts, right? The visual, dance, drama, theater, and music. But here in LA County, only 25% of schools actually comply with that. And just 2 months ago, LAUSD did a screening for trauma or adverse childhood experiences, and they found that 27% of students were at risk for trauma. So students are more at risk for trauma than they have art access, you know. So some schools have more students have traumatic experiences than in visual arts class. So yeah, I definitely agree that it's part of the system. If we know the power of arts, right, it's evidence-based. In countries like Norway, music therapy is the #1 form of treatment for schizophrenia, paranoid schizophrenia. So it's like, even one of the most extreme, you know, severe forms of mental illness, it's one of the most impactful forms, you know, to treat it. So we're just not seeing it here, and that's why it takes events like We Rise showing, you know, to the public and putting it out there that, you know, the healing power of arts, and we have to demand it in our school.
Yeah.
Schools today look a lot more like prisons. You know, there are actually
Absolutely.
1.7 million school children, American school children in schools that have cops and no counselor. So if you drop your child off to a school that has a cop and no counselor, right? If they have a a temper tantrum, it's more likely to be responded to with pepper spray than like, you know, an intervention.
Yeah, that's happening more and more. They're
Oh yeah,
they're
I've
treating
represented
infractions
YouTubes
of discipline and order as crime.
Right.
And I mean, it's really well documented that things like music and the arts actually aid your brain development in young children, and that if they study music, they do much better in hard subjects like math. Yet those are the first programs to be cut, the first things that are cut from curriculum when there's some sort of shortage of money. But I think it really smacks of just trying to keep people, as you say, depressed or needy or needing. They need consumers. They need worker bees. They need people to make this shit and then sell it to these people. It's part of a capitalist system that is very cynical about the needs of the population in general.
Yeah, I want to give a shout out to you and the work with Students Deserve. And if y'all don't know, Students Deserve are LAUSD parent school teachers, and mostly the youth from LAUSD schools. It's a youth-led movement, and they actually had like an art show that you helped create, and they put together art based on do you all know that they randomly search black and brown students in the schools? How many people know? Raise your hand if you know.
Every Los Angeles Unified School District has a policy that requires every middle and high school to pause learning and take students out of class and search them and actually confiscate any art supplies, confiscating thousands of Sharpies,
journals, highlighters.
I've had students share stories about how they cried once, you know, their quote-unquote tag and journal was confiscated in the name of this policy. Journal.
Yeah, so I bring that up to say that instead of randomly searching our students in the LAUSD schools, we've been asking for community schools because they don't even have access to counselors. They don't have access to a health, like a nurse. You got to get sick on a Wednesday, you know, because they don't have a nurse the other day. So that's really important to what we're talking about is if you're taking, you know, the arts out, let's not search our school and have police forces actually for LAUSD when you're putting all of that money towards them. They're taking the money away from school arts education, and instead the kids don't have access to counselors, art, but yet they're getting searched and having things taken away, and no guns have been found. So I just wanted to point that out. Like, it's the black and brown communities that these things are happening to. So I want us to be aware of, you know, at the Geffen Academy, for example, they have a wellness director, and this is by UCLA. They have an actual wellness director. But let's think about that. Shout out to the Geffen Academy. But they have dance, a wellness director, and they know about meditation. All the students do that. Why can't you have that in the black and brown communities as well? Because it's intentional. And it's this cycle, and then the school is looking more like a prison. And so, yeah, thank you for that question, Gina.
And I'll also just shout out the Youth Justice Coalition,
yeah,
who is trying to put some demands on the police department, the Los Angeles Police Department, to take 5%, at least 5% of their budget, and put it into after-school programs and activities for youth. So why don't we open it up for some questions? We have a microphone that can come to you. If anyone has a question, please feel free to just raise your hand. We have someone down here. And we have someone working. We have two people down here. We've got a person in the back.
I'm going to make my way back up in just
all right.
a second.
All right. Great.
Hi. I have a question about trauma and using art to heal trauma. Sometimes I've found that you hit on something and it can be really medicinal and healing, and sometimes it's really triggering. Where do you find that line with yourself as artists of what's good for you and what's just suffering for suffering's sake?
One thing I wanted to say is, like, every time I go to any kind of fitness, I don't know if this answers your question, but I want to share one thing that when you were talking about it reminded me of. Like, I love to go to this boxing gym. I love going to CrossFit or whatever it is. I love doing that stuff. But then they're always playing, like, you know, like music, and I'm listening to it, and I'm like, I don't want to turn up to the sound of my own oppression. You know, every other word is like bitches and hoes and blah, blah, blah. But it's like, you know, has a nice beat to it. So I always have this thing where I'm like, you know, the beat is amazing and the music is amazing, but the lyrics are so oppressive. And like, I don't want to have Molly. No, like, you know, it's so.
You know, that's so interesting. I have a 21-year-old daughter, and when she was 17, I asked her, I said, is it the beat or is it the lyric? Because if the beat stayed the same, but it was other lyrics that was like really uplifting and talking about self-empowerment or whatever, but the beat stayed the same and everything dropped the same, would it still be as good? And she was like, absolutely, and we would all prefer it.
Well, that's very interesting because I love that. And I think that's my strategy. I'm always like, I want to make music that like is not turning up to the sound of somebody else's oppression, you know, and that's just like feminist trap music, like joyful trap music would be amazing. So I bring that up because for me, that's personally where I struggle with that, because that music is everywhere and I love it. And I love the musicality of it, but then I listen to it and I feel emotionally sensitive to it. And you can't really get away. I feel like it's everywhere in the airwaves. The misogyny is everywhere. We don't even question it. It's so normal. Yeah. So for me, that's where my trauma comes from, but it also does inform my work because I'm not here to tell somebody else how to make their art, but I am here to provide the alternative.
Yeah, for me, as far as triggers are concerned, I make it a point to make sure I go to counseling every week. So shout out to the counselors. So most of this work is not a reactionary thing. This be about being proactive. So being well and being healed is something that is hard fucking work. Excuse my language. It's like hard work. And it's something that you have to do daily. So I know that sometimes I'm going to go through things artistically that may be a triggering experience. And so what I do is make sure on the back end, before that even happens, I have my, therapy every week. I have my friends that I'm able to unpack with. I have my sister circles. I have, like I told you, the wellness where the baths or the crystals or all of these things that I do daily to kind of counteract that. But then also when I teach dance activism, I have been very aware that I'm not a medical professional, and I say that. So the tips that I give as far as like positive affirmations that I teach or different things that I'm teaching as someone that uses dance as healing, I make sure that I have my friends there or people who are professionals. And I know that we have medical professionals even for We Rise around who actually know how to heal the trauma, because something that I really find problematic even for me is to lift someone's vibrations and lift them and heal them, and then I got to send them out to just be dropped. And so I think it's really key for us to give people tools to continue after we've done our creative process and we got them feeling in joy. And I just wanted to thank you for, talking about let's stay in the joy. That was something that I wanted to talk about earlier. It's like a lot of music is built out of suffering, and that's great and all, but I love that you have the feminist trap, music that is out of this vibration of love and joy and creativity. And it doesn't always have to be, we're doing this in spite of our oppressors. We are doing this in spite of, no, why don't we just create, like you said, when we're in those joyful moments, and create those joyful moments and continue that while we're in those moments. No, I'm a Scorpio.
I wanted to ask Fabian something, because he was talking to us. We were talking before we came out. He was talking about his experience in school. When he became an artist and he was doing his art, that it wasn't accepted or recognized by, you were talking about your teachers like ripping up your paintings and drawings and stuff. I mean, we keep saying, well, we refer to the schools as, giving them the tools and stuff like that. But I mean, how about giving some of these teachers an education and what it means to be an expressive person, and not just asking everybody to become the same person?
Yeah, absolutely.
But I really wanted to ask you to
share that story.
Yeah.
Anyways, I guess, that's one thing that I do. I think it's like, a lot of the times, we put it on the individual, but it's a community effort. And we have to be mindful, and I believe that everything comes with an intention. And for me, anyway, so the story that I was sharing in the backstage, it's like a lot of my personal life experience is what informs my lens and also helps me create intentional curriculums that are going to reach and invite the individuals to that core. And so then, for example, there was a teacher in 8th grade. I used to draw in 3rd grade, 4th grade. 2 + 2 = 4, 4 + 4 = a drawing, get your ass to the principal's office, and not to be drawing in class. But a lot of the times the teacher didn't have the tools. That was old school. They probably did. If they would have asked me, why is it that you love to draw, they probably would have got to where it is, where it stems from. But they were quick to punish and penalize me, to call me the class clown, or maybe not capable of, or you're just a disruptive kid in class. In 8th grade, a teacher took it upon himself. 2 weeks into graduation, my mom's all excited. She had the menudo and everybody. Fabian's going to graduate, and we're all ready to graduation. And the teacher comes in front of all my colleagues 2 weeks into graduation, and he says, "Fabian, you're not to be drawing in class." I said, "Kickback, fool." You know what I mean? Like, you're making a big old scene out of nothing. Homie, I'm going to graduate in 2 weeks. First of all, you're challenging me in front of my colleagues. Second, you're belittling me in front of my colleagues. So what am I supposed to do? Keep drawing in class. F this fool, right? So I kept drawing in class, but he's starting to remind me of someone. He's starting to remind me of my father, who was a heroin addict. And there's a trip because he comes around and he slaps my desk, grabs my drawing, puts it in front of me, and he goes, "What did I tell you? Stop drawing in class." I was like, "You mother," right? So he ripped my artwork, and I remember in that moment, it was as if everything that I was escaping, everything that I was trying to, work through or process or all that just came all back to light. And the difference was he was not my father. The same feelings of betrayal, rejection, and all that came about. And I grab a desk and I throw it at his ass. Boom. And then when I threw the desk at him, he had high blood pressure, so he used to eat lifesavers to control his sugar levels throughout the day. So he's like, "Fabian," bloop, looked like a fish out of water going through convulsions. And I said, "Why don't you eat your lifesavers now, punk? Might save your life," right? Principal comes, takes me to the office, takes me to the principal's office, and now Fabian gets expelled. Fabian is the bad kid. Yeah. Fabian is the one who has to go tell his mom to cancel the party because he's no longer graduating. Now it's time to send him to the Lion's Den, which I call public school. I was in Catholic school. And so then, but one thing that did happen, and this is an important piece of this, that teacher could have destroyed me for the rest of my life. The fact that I was betrayed by my mother, who could not protect me from my father, the fact that I was betrayed by my father, who would leave me while he would go to prison, and the fact that I was betrayed by my community, who didn't step up in the time of need, and now the teachers, F the world. And that made it that much easier for me to fall in the chains of gang culture, But one thing that happened is, where do they send their troubles to? In this moment, they walked me across the street to Dolores Mission Church. And there was Father Greg Boyle from Homeboy Industries. Right. In 1986, 88, I remember. And Father Greg goes, "What happened, mijo?" I said, "Well, this fool ripped my artwork, G, and no one's going to take that from me but me." He goes, "Ay, mijo, I'm not going to be able to keep you in school. You're going to get expelled. But before you leave, son, I want you to do something for me." I go, "What's that, Father Greg?" "I want you to go home and draw me something." I was like, "What the fuck?" For the very first time, I'm not being punished and penalized for what I love to do. He actually recognized me, recognized my strength, and he returned the gift of art back to me. Yes. Many of the reasons why I continue to do what I do today. Simple as that. That's the story that I was sharing in the
Thank you for that story.
And that in itself paints pictures, right? It paints a picture of acknowledgement, recognition, receiving and meeting the individual where he's at. Sometimes it has to be client-led. You know, it's not about what I prescribe, it's about what they bring and what I'm going to take. And so for me, when it comes to triggers and trauma, it's about scaffolding, it's about acknowledging, recognizing, creating safe space, feeling the pulse, and then you start to implement and turn the knob a little bit more and more accordingly to what it is, the needs that need to be met. They play the piano, I orchestrate the tune, pretty much. Yeah.
Is there another question?
All right. Hey, everybody, I'm Sonia again. So I think we can all agree that school systems need some work, right? It doesn't start or stop there, but I feel like that's something that us all, if we're not parents yet, we might be parents soon. So I feel like we can all have some kind of an impact in how the school system works. So how would you guys, what would be your suggestions for us as parents, to-be parents, grandparents, what have you? What can we take to our community school? What can we talk to the principal about? What can we talk to the school board about? What can we talk to the governor about? What can we talk to the teacher about in a one-on-one meeting at our next parent-teacher conference? I'm not a parent yet, but I'm terrified to be a parent because this world isn't where I want to bring my kid yet. But I know we can change that. So what can we go to school on Monday and talk to our teachers about, or should?
Safe community schools. Look up LA schools students deserve. So yeah, safe community schools is the first thing. Getting rid of those random searches. That's like stop and frisk. We got away from that, right?
Yeah.
So they shouldn't go into classrooms feeling like it's a prison. And I know that one of my students, she says like, you know, they always say it's random, but I'm always number 5. And so like that kind of like stereotyping, and she says it diminishes her as a person. So one of the things that you can go into your schools is to make sure they have community schools. Make sure that all lives matter, all Black lives, all lives, every single life matters in the school. So, you know, you go and make sure that there's an equal amount of, you know, you can talk more about, you know.
Definitely equity, you know, and California is lucky because at the state level, there's constitutional, you know, protections for the right to an education and for access to arts. And at the school level, there's local control, you know, the LCFF, they call it, right, the different acronyms, but you can actually advocate for more of the funding to go for the arts. So community members, parents, students can ask for that, whether or not the schools listen, right? That's a different thing. But also your school board meetings. So Los Angeles Unified School District spends over $60 million a year on police, but about $31 million on art.
Yeah.
So
the statistics.
Right. If that bothers you, you can go to the school board meeting, pull up where they're making noise. And this Saturday, actually, or next Saturday, is a meeting for the random searches. You can follow Students Deserve. That's a organization. You can follow them on Instagram or anything, but it's for community members, parents, students, and there's a lot of action. There's an action next Saturday, actually, we'll be speaking at. So
I think it's also important to advocate for mental health care practitioners to be on school sites, and that the nurses, if there are any, that they're there. I think as you know, as Amir said earlier, that often the first line of defense is the police, and that should not be an acceptable position. And I also think that you can educate your community to vote. Because I think that voting is a really important, and school board are elected positions, and we need to do more education for ourselves on who are running for office and what their viewpoints are in life and what their records are. You know, district attorneys also. I know we were talking about schools, but district attorneys have a very, very heavy hand in deciding sentencing and trying young people as adults. And I think there's alternatives to incarceration, and I think we really need to get into who we're voting for and doing our research on who we're electing. I know for me personally, when I first started voting, I didn't know what everybody was, and I didn't, you know, I was like, I'll just pick a woman or a name that sounds ethnic, you know. Which is so uninformed, because a woman or an ethnic person cannot always have the same values as me or what I believe in. So I think we need to educate ourselves, and I think we need to make sure that we carry our vote and heard. But certainly budgets, city budgets, you know, going back into art programs for schools and making sure that our principals, like we want our police departments, to have more understanding of mental health and wellness, and we should have a practitioner on site in schools.
yeah, and one thing you can actually do tonight, so Jorge, raise your hand in the corner over there, raise your fist. He has a petition. We're collecting signatures. If we create or go back to the Prop 13 corporate tax that existed in California in the 70s, we would have better funding for schools. So if you're interested in that, you can sign that with Jorge over there.
So we're going to take 2 more questions. This one woman right here, and then this woman on the end here. So this woman in the white. Oh, okay. Do it the other way around. Okay.
So,
what's your name?
My name is Lauren Butler. Shamel is actually my mentor. Met her when I was like 15. I'm 24 now, so she's like my second mom.
Oh, you're telling my age now.
So you all talked a lot about how the things that we see in the community, especially the education system, are intentional. Like, these different things are placed here intentionally to keep Black and brown people down, depressed, you know, consuming everything, capitalism. And then on the other note, you guys suggest, like, voting people in and talking to different officials and going to the school board and things like that. So where I kind of like struggle with it is like, if it's so intentional, like how much energy should go towards trying to convince people to do the right thing, and then how much should go towards like creating something brand new and just like doing something different and getting out of the system and hopping off the wheel and just doing something totally different.
Yeah, so
Well,
I didn't want to speak to that because I homeschool. So I was going to speak about that. That for me, it was a decision that I had to make to take my child out of public schools. But I'm a part-time staff member of Students Deserve, and I meet at Baldwin Hills with them and trying to help public schools with whatever they need. So I still know that it's not everyone's not able to do what I did. Not everyone is able to be a PhD student, scholar, activist, blah, 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 and I can bring my child with me to places, well, I do bring my child even if I can't bring him, you know, and I can unschool him and give him that type of lifestyle. So I do both. So I advocate for safe community schools. I'm on the front lines for other youth and students, but then I decided to have a network, and I've been finding my tribe of Black and brown folk who homeschool their children and give them a critically conscious education, something that's completely out of the box of but I don't want to take everyone away from that. And so that's why I'm really concerned about, you know, sometimes it's public school versus charter school and blah, 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 blah. I want to get to the core issue of why people feel like they need charter schools. What's going on in the LAUSD where you feel like you need to go to a Catholic school? So because the majority of people can't afford to go to a Catholic school, and some people can't even afford to try to figure out how to get to a charter. So I just want us to get to the actual core of the issues, and I like what you said, like sometimes we do need to think outside the box. So I think it's both at the same time, and it's always both instead of just one or the other. You know?
I agree with that. You have to do both. Whatever your misgivings are about electoral politics, you have to keep trying as hard as you can to turn the tide there. But you can't really invest all your hope that that's going to do it. You have to take your own path and your own course, and you have to, and no education in any school is worth anything, worth as much as it would be without your individual, your contact, your own guidance of your child. You know.
Yeah. Anyone else?
Hi there. My name is Ariane. I am a peer counselor in training. I went through PhD as well, and not in mental health. I'm getting out of the academia because all sorts of problems. So I found in peer counseling a very wonderful place. I have a few points here that I want to, excuse me, I got to sit down. Don't mind. All right. First things first, childhood in art is part of our DNA. We are born artists. You look at a child, they're doing art. And that is something, it is a crime to remove that. It is, so to try to educate a child towards something else outside of what they already are doing is counterproductive and creating trauma. Art and healing. I want from you, please tell me how art and healing and childhood, and how can you build a community of peer community of art and healing, and for childhood for everyone. Thank you.
Can I share a little bit? Like right now, like for me personally, I understand the importance, and I also recognize when I observe East Los Angeles, because I'm from East LA, Boyle Heights, and I observe and I watch, and I can see that there is still a great need So as a community member, it is my responsibility to acknowledge and recognize those needs. And so I stepped up to the plate, and I have an art school located on First and Alma in East LA, and I've been able to create an intergenerational art class where I'm giving the mothers and daughters, fathers and sons a space where they can recapture their story, reclaim their story, because it is now noticeable that we're losing our ancestral roots and culture. It's not being transcended and transmitted to the new generations. And so I want to make sure that I've created a space where they can do so. And you can see and watch how amazing it is, where the mothers who have probably 2 jobs, always on the go, neglecting the child because of whatever life demand may be. When you see them in my space and the connections that are happening and the fact that they're really getting to know what their daughter and sons are going through, that in itself is healing. And if I can expand on that and continue to create that, then that's what it looks like. And so, and that right there, we talk about what brings peace. That's important. You know, another thing is this. Like I said, a lot of my curriculums, workshops are defined by my own personal life experience. Because my mother, when I would come home and I say, look, Mom, I got an A in art. That's probably the only subject I got an A.
Hey,
I go,
it's an A. It's an A.
I go, Ama, I got an A in art. Oh, que bueno, mijo, now sit down, we're going to eat. Ama, I got an F. Hijo de tu pin. Oh, you get more recognition when you get the F. So fuck it, I might as well get the F. So those things tell me that, so that informs me, right? And so that's where it's important. So I do have an intergenerational art class. Everyone is welcome to come and observe my School of Arts in East LA, and I can go on from that.
I think it also takes creating the spaces and opportunities. Like you said, here's my mentee here. But it's about supporting young kids. And if you see them dancing outside, I remember when they were jerking and I was doing research on them, you know, I looked really young at the time, and I would get in trouble. We would get, you know, thrown out of malls and all types of things. And instead of, you know, saying, oh, they're dancing and they're not stealing, they're not, you know, doing other things, you know, it was the security guards would actually kick. There's another one, Day over here. There's, you know, the kids were criminalized for dancing, or they say no skateboards here. These are creative things that kids like to do, but we are policing our kids. And so one of the ways that I, you know, raise my son is whatever he's interested in, we do unit-based type things. And so it's about, what I wrote down is mentor to them, but ask them what they need first. Like, they have all the answers within themselves. And that's for all of us. We all have the answers. We all need to ask, like, specifically, like, what is it that you like to do, and help offer that. For me, the only thing that I could really give to the, you know, Black Lives Matter movement was my brain and my body, right? So I was like, okay, I'm going to do scholarly work, but then also I've been performing since I was 2. How can I use this as a way to create some kind of transformative change? And that's what we need to be encouraging our youth to do. What is it that you're good at? Whatever it is that you're good at, how can I help you be better at that? And that's what I, you know, encourage all of us to do. It's not about enforcing things upon people. It's not about, I don't even want to, anything I say up here, if it doesn't resonate with you, just drop it away. What is it saying to you? Anything that someone says to you should resonate and confirm what's already inside of you. And so that's what I want us to do to our children. I want to go to them and say, you know, hey, you love drawing. I wish you were my son. You know, I would have facilitated that, and you would have all the art classes, a whole bunch of crayons and things like that. And I think that's where we go. We go to who they really are, and we have to be able to know who we really are and be able to unlock that within our children.
Yeah, well, this is my complaint about institutions like the LAUSD. You know, it's a bureaucracy, and I support a community arts center in Leimert Park, the Fernando Pullum Community Arts Center, and these kids are playing. They're playing really high-level music. In high school, they're playing, you know, incredibly well because they go there every day. after school. It's what he's providing the hours and hours every day. And when you're talking about giving kids instruments, yeah, give an instrument, also give them the time to play that instrument every day. When Pullman he was working, first he was in the LAUSD, and they made Washington Prep a magnet school because of his program. They were playing all over the city and blowing minds everywhere they went and playing really high-level gigs, the Dorothy Chandler Pavilion and the Playboy Jazz Festival, always playing Monk, just playing really elevated stuff. And it's great to give kids not just the freedom to play, but also give them a challenge. You give them stuff that they have to really work to achieve. He says, if somebody makes a mistake, like a mistake in a note, he say, okay, celebrate that mistake. And it means you got to give them some push-ups, 10 push-ups, celebrate that, And eventually they stop making that mistake. They don't want to do any more push-ups. But what he told me, then he went to work in some charter schools, the ISEF charter schools. And what he was telling me was, they didn't really budget the amount of time that they need to be musicians either. And he was having trouble with the principals, and it just like they expected him to be the sort of the music man, the miracle maker, the guy that would breathe this passion into these kids, but without giving them the time to work at it. So what he does now is he has a center that it provides that service for the same kids, whatever school they're going to. And so he serves multiple schools, and they come to him after school, and they are. And it reminds me of what you're saying, Fabian, with your school. I mean, you have to provide that community, that sense of community, and that our own special, our sauce. The thing that we do like nobody else. That's the thing you want to breathe into your young minds. The idea there's something you have to say that only you can say.
So, okay, I'm going to make one statement, and then I'm going to ask one last question of all of our panelists here, and then we'll wrap this up. But one thing I want to say, which is back to one of the comments Lauren made, yes, is that, well, first of all, let's acknowledge the land that we're on currently. It's Tongva land. We have to acknowledge the ancestors. We have to acknowledge those that have come before us. And the reason why I'm bringing that up is because until this country really gets into a dialogue around how it was founded and created, the North Americas, with genocide and stolen bodies for profit, we will always find ourselves, as you were feeling, I think, a bit frustrated, in a system that is designed for us to, as we were saying earlier, fail or not be creative. Because as we look at other countries' wars and conflicts, you will see that one of the first things they take away are the arts, the artist, books, knowledge. Control what they know, then you can control what they do. So until we get into a real conversation around the genocide of the native people and slavery and other forms of oppression that have come before us, that have used tools, then we'll always be looking for new ways and creative ways in which to exist. So I agree with what Jackson said earlier, which is it's really twofold. We do have to remain in the system in order to shift it and transform it. So we have to keep going to vote. We have to find folks that are getting closer and closer to the ideals that we believe in. But something that was said earlier to me at another event I found so exciting, and for a way for us to start thinking and healing our own mental wellness, which was that I, and those who know me know that I'm the first person to be like, I'm part of the resistance. Well, in fact, I don't really very much any longer want to view myself as that in fact, I am not the resistance. I am part of the emerging transformation of a new world order. The resistance are those who keep coming up against the transformation of well-being and health and love and the way in which that we can work with one another and transform one another in a healthy way. So the resistance, often for me when I look at it, is this administration, for instance, and those forces and systems that come in the way of us doing our own community work and healing and having more healthy communities. So I just wanted to say that we can somehow reclaim who we are, that in fact we are not the resistance. So with that, I would like for each of you, in a brief way, give a call to action, whether it is an artistic call to action or any other kind of call to action, which I will suggest is probably going to be artistic no matter what it is, that we can share with this audience, either on what a next step in their journey could be once they leave this room, or what step they might want to consider artistically that they can take to heal themselves and create more mental well-being in the world.
So Gina, you're always in my brain, because I literally wrote next steps, and then I wrote down, that's crazy, that's weird. So I was gonna talk about next steps, and the first thing that I was gonna, I wanted to teach you all something too. So, and has anyone heard of the Hawaiian affirmation Ho'oponopono? Anybody? Yes. Okay, so I'm going to have us do it together in a second, but the first thing I wanted to say before that is I wanted to talk about the throwaway culture that we have going on right now and how that actually relates to, or the antithesis of what we want as far as transformative justice, restorative justice. And you know what I mean by throwaway culture. Like, what do we do with the people like we don't really want on our part of the, you know, I'm not going to say any names, like the, no, we're not going to say any names, but yeah, like, what are we doing about the problematic people, right? So I want us to begin to start thinking about, like, what we really think about forgiveness and transformative justice and restorative justice. That was one of my next steps, because similar in the line of, like, us always being reactionary or the resistance, but being in this whole idea of, okay, how are we going to get to a point where we move past that? And if we really are about a prison abolition or this abolitionist, you know, state of mind, how do we really find that? How do we think and envision something new? And my 7-year-old has some answers, but that's a whole other story. But what I want to do as a part of our community building exercise right now is to teach you all the Ho'oponopono. And basically, I do this every day, and it has transformed my life. And it's a forgiveness affirmation, and it's also a reconciliation affirmation. So that person that you really can't stand is showing you something really important, and they're grading against you to learn an important lesson. So at every point you ask yourself, what are you teaching me? And it could be, it really is that they're projecting their own stuff on you, but also it could be that, one, you need to say, I'm sorry.
Shall we do it together?
Yeah, so it's I'm sorry, please forgive me, I love you, and thank you. So you're going to say it with me. So I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Please forgive me.
Please forgive me.
I love you.
I love you.
And thank you.
Thank you.
And if you say those things, and it doesn't have to be directly to that person, it could just be energetically, let me tell you how quick they might even forget that they got on your nerves, and they might be the sweetest thing. There's so many people that's literally changed their whole way of dealing with me. And I'm like, who is you? And it's because I literally continue to do this, and it just changed the way that they viewed themselves and me.
So one more time. What is it? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Please forgive me.
Please forgive me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I love you.
I love you.
In any order.
Thank you, Chanel.
So I gave you all infinity, right? So you can, let's just do that one last time. So we gonna wake up.
Infinite.
Rise up.
Infinite.
Every morning.
Infinite.
My dreams.
Infinite.
My team.
Infinite.
We rise.
Infinite.
Boom. There we go.
Beautiful.
Yeah. My piece of advice would be to optimize for your own joyfulness. I'll say it again, because I think for me, I like to make choices and bring my best self to wherever it is that I'm going to go. And I've gotten a lot better at saying no to the things that I don't think will bring me joy. And then I bring like triple as much joy then to the things that I do say yes to. So optimize for your own joyfulness.
Yes.
Thank you.
I want to go to your community group.
I guess I don't know. I guess it's just like what I shared about earlier. You know, sometimes I go, system impacted people are more capable than what some organizations make them think. Yeah. So if you can help me shift that perception that the world has on system impacted people, then again, you are now helping elevate them and opening the door a lot broader so we can walk hand in hand together.
Any action you want?
I'd like to echo something I heard Tom Morello say at the uninaugural ball. He said, you know, we have to show up for each other, and we have to recognize the common struggle we all have in these times, and recognize each other's part in it, and to, even if it seems redundant, to just be there just for each other, and to I thought of it again when I was walking through the gallery, and I saw all that, the part of the installation at the end where it was showing all these different signs and different slogans, and I thought that's really right. You know, just recognize and put your, you know, cast your lot together. And I would I'll quote two lines from one line from a song where I have shit, no, I can't even remember. I wouldn't be able to remember it until I start from the beginning. Okay, the last line's another song, you know. More love, more light, more truth, more innovation.
Yes, yes.
I love that.
And I would say Dr. King used nonviolence as a tool and a methodology, as a way of life. So one of those tenets is to suspend your first judgment. So I would offer to you that sometimes when you see someone going through something, or when you can sense that someone's having road rage or being a drag at the grocery store, suspend your first judgment. Take your own temperature in terms of where you're at, so that you would want them also to suspend their judgment of you. And also, maybe don't be afraid to ask a friend or someone who you feel safe in doing so, are you all right? Are you okay? How are you doing? We tend to not really go there. I mean, a lot of the time we say, hey, how you doing? And we're already gone before we even get the response. But if you see someone who might feel down or in pain, feel free to just ask them how they're doing and suspend your first judgment of them, and certainly love up on one another. So thank you all so much, Kieran, Amir, Shamel, Fabian, and Jackson. Thank you all so much. Thank you to the whole We Rise team.
Tina.
Thank you, thank you. And please make sure you see the gallery and come back tomorrow. Tomorrow, Jackson is actually joining a nice group of other artists to perform for Memorial Day. So come back tomorrow and enjoy the gallery. Good night.
Yeah.